Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask Me Anything on Gotham Sound TV. I am joined with Geoff Baynard from Wisycom and DPA. Geoff, thanks for being here.
No, thank you for having me. It's always fun to be here.
Yeah, so this is the second episode of Ask Me Anything for Geoff. So we're going to get deep into real personal questions. What's your favorite color?
Oh man, favorite color. I'm always partial to black, but depending on your subscription to which version of color theory that is or isn't a color. But otherwise, purple is a nice one, especially like LED lighting. Gives a nice vibe.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Purple is seems to be a very popular color these days. Anyway, so as this is an Ask Me Anything, you can put your questions in the chat, and with any luck, we'll see them and we'll relay them to Geoff. Other than the personal questions, what's your favorite food?
A favorite food is, I don't know if you could just call Chipotle a favorite food.
Fair enough. So yeah, other than personal questions like that, we do have, we're always talking about fiber.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about this box here, and you're going to have to do the holding when we talk about the box because I'll have this.
You got the camera.
But yeah, we
so I'll be like Vanna White.
Yeah.
Or I guess Vanna White doesn't hold stuff, but
display.
She points at things.
But yeah, this is the Wisycom BFL2, so we can get a little bit into that today, a little bit deeper about those kind of things, and any other questions you have. So, Geoff, what brings you to New York?
I was just coming up for some other things, and I said, if I'm going to come to New York, I want to come see some of my favorite people.
Oh, thank you.
So, I said, let's go out and, if you're another dealer of any kind, just skip over that.
So you said some of
my favorite people.
Yeah.
I mean, I already saw Peter, so I feel like I've
there you go.
Come to see what I saw.
There you go. Perfect. Well, so you were at Formula as they say.
Yeah, you may notice my voice is a little bit hoarse. I've been on a regimen of cough drops and whatever the Dwayne Reed equivalent of cough syrup is for 2 days. Couldn't talk 2 days ago, but we and it was why I was very bummed to have missed Gotham Expo last weekend because it was my anniversary with my wife Katie, and she had a few months ago surprised me with tickets to qualifying for Formula One in Miami. So we then went down there, and I said, well, let's stay for Sunday too. So we had a blast. Here I have a to be fair, I think I saw Katie in the chat that Nick is asked, are these photos approved? And I said, I'm pretty sure. But that's, my beautiful wife of, I guess it would be 6 years now.
Wow. Okay.
6. Yeah, because for 2025, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, it is 2025. I always have to. All this math thing is hard. Okay, so that was your anniversary. I was under the impression that you were working down there because I know that Wisycom does so much fiber.
Wisycom does a huge amount of fiber, and you could see the I don't know what you call the scissor lifts of just covered in Wizy antennas. Mass of Wizy antennas all over the place. As we walked around the stadium, I'd point out to Katie and I'd say, "Oh, there's another pile of Wizy antennas."
That's mine. That's mine. This one. That's cool. You want to show us some more pictures?
Yeah, the rest are. I mean, because Nick had asked about what we were doing. Because Nick, I know you did, and this is probably something we could talk about, of the thing you did for the race that you guys put together.
Oh,
with
yeah,
Fiverr.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, we were on to start finish straight for Saturday, and then had a great view on turn 18 for Sunday.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
Yeah. As you can tell, I'm a Max Verstappen fan.
I can't tell that, but that's great.
Oh, sorry.
I'm very glad. I'm not up on the Formula. But so we have some questions already. First of all, Katie, happy anniversary, and congratulations on knowing this guy 2 for 2, as she says. And then work related. Alan Cavedo said that they recently updated the MTP61s from 2.5 to 2.7. Any insight on what's new or better?
A lot of what there's a lot of just like bug fixes we're working on in there. Some things with getting, as we talk about the MTP61 XL battery, just trying to get the overall consumption of the device down so that it uses less battery, so that both your regular battery and your XL battery are more efficient. But part of that firmware was to add support for the XL battery and reading the proper, they call it like a battery discharge pattern
the
for
telemetry data and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Great. Well, that's good. And when is that? That's coming soonish.
That's coming very soon. The last update I had on that was getting the battery itself certified to the US. A very different process than, say, like a normal handheld transmitter or any transmitter. It's just getting the battery itself by the battery manufacturer.
Right. And the what was I going to say? And so for those of you who didn't see the video we did at NAB, feel free to go to gothamsound.tv and check that out, or it's our YouTube channel. The XL battery, how long is that going to last on the MTP61?
It's effectively double the size of the regular battery, which I think ends up being like 17 millimeters or something, and takes you from a max battery life of 8 hours to about 16 hours.
That's wild.
And that'll change a little bit depending on, output power and if you're recording as well for outside the US.
Right. Does the recorder pull a lot of power, or?
The recorder, I think the spec says it takes about 2 hours of battery life out over the course of it, because it does consume some to record.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's like when you add phantom power to something, it's like drains it just a bit. All right, so let's see. Nate said that he's a big Geoff fan. I think we all are.
Thank you. So am I, and I think I'd hope Katie is too. But I guess we'll see how the day goes.
Yeah, it's important. All right, so let's see. So we got personal questions. We got black and purple, so dark colors.
Yep.
Unless it's written. All right, so this is kind of personal to me lately. But if you had to dye your hair any color, what color would you pick?
That is an excellent question. I don't know that I've ever had a deep thought of dyeing my hair.
We'll come back to that one.
That might be a question. I don't know if Katie's still watching. But that'd be probably a...
Oh, yeah. Katie.
What color would she tolerate? It's Katie's my wife, by the way, in case anyone hadn't seen that. The name is the same.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of probably the equal question is what color would she kind of allow?
Interesting.
Or tolerate, I should say. Not allow. Maybe tolerate is more the...
Got it. Okay, perfect. So we do have a couple of comments. One from our own Peter Schneider asked if we can talk about commander compatibility modes in Wisycom products, specifically with Sennheiser and Lectro. We did have a customer ask a question about MCR and Sennheiser compatibility. So wait, before you dive into that, anecdotally, we had a customer that had all Sennheiser G4s. And wanted to upgrade their range but didn't have the money to upgrade to the entire Wisycom system. And we demoed them an MCR 54. They got it. They tried it in whatever the compatibility mode is that works best with Sennheiser. And man, were they blown away. Like they said that their range, I don't think doubled is maybe a bit extreme, but it increased significantly, and they were very, very, very happy. So that's a really interesting. It's a really interesting use case if you either can't upgrade to Wisycom or you've got some older transmitters kind of kicking around, that you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also use the same use cases where even if you have a full kit of Wisycom, if you run into situations where perhaps whoever you're miking up might be going into an environment where that mic, that transmitter might have a little trouble. Like they're probably going to go in a pool, or they might get, they're on a boat somewhere where you need to mic them, but you don't want to put your, money transmitter. It becomes a very nice option that it's much easier to replace one of those than it is a higher end transmitter.
Right.
So, there's a couple things that we look at of what that compander compatibility is. And, for anyone unfamiliar with that part of wireless, a compander in an analog transmission system, which is what Wisycom is much like an audio. To go in the transmitter, you compress, because you really can't send the full dynamic range of a mic over the air. So what we do is you compress, you transmit over the air, and then you expand. So for the same reason, it comes up as a typo, and every time you type compander, it's compression, expansion.
Ah, I see. Interesting.
Yeah, there's don't come for me in the chat. It's like 10 more technical steps than that. The basic version is that. So we kind of go from that into, a lot of the analog modulations are fairly similar. So you can set the Wisycom to receive as a Sennheiser Evolution or a lot of the other systems out there that are analog modulation. And then as to why it will get you that much more range is because of the true diversity receiver of the 54.
And the filtering too. I mean, the way that the front end works on the Wisycom is very tight.
It's incredibly tight, and it's of course the filtering is, and the way we always I explain, my wife is brilliant and talented. She's not an audio person or an RF person. So, the way I always try to explain wireless and, why filtering and all of that is massively important in true diversity is, if Nick is my transmitter, Nick's at 100 milliwatts, whether he's sitting next to me or out in the other part of the Gotham shop, Nick's still at 100. I'm trying to hear him over the noise of people shouting, the traffic outside. And if there's an IFB next to me, I just want to hear him and tune out all of that, But then also, in a true diversity system compared to an, antenna diversity or non-diversity, I get to use both ears at the same time, not one or the other.
Right. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I like those. I always think about it as like eyeballs. Right?
Yeah.
So it's just like you've got, camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2, and like which one is going to look better, which one's going to pick up the image. And then with filtering, it's like if you're trying to, look at something, if you're like blinders on a horse. Yeah. Basically, you're only going to get what's right in front of you instead of everything else off to the side. So Katie is still watching. So 2 very funny comments.
I know. I've been trying not to laugh at those as I answer your question.
I would never dye his hair. I would not allow it. Great. And then, but if she pleads insanity, then maybe 90s bleach tips, which honestly, I think that would probably look pretty great on you. Just
like frosted tips?
Yeah, frosted tips. You start your own 90s boy band. Yeah. Alan Cavedo asked, what is the best recommendation for a phantom power box for the MTP61 on a boom? I have one.
Yeah, that might be one that you haven't answered, because as Wisycom, our really option right now is the PHA60 with the MTP60. We don't really have, the way it was explained and decided was there wasn't enough room in the 61 to keep it that form factor and put the boards you need to do phantom power. Right,
exactly. So the one that we, sell the most of, right, because it really is just a phantom power box. But if you're doing the MTP61 on the end of a boom, you want it really small and really light. And so the smallest, lightest one that we've found is the Ambient UMP3, UMP3. I assume it's not short for umpire, but it could be. And it really is just a very tiny box. It's maybe this big. It's about the size of 2 NP50 batteries. Okay. And it's very simple. It's got a TA connector in and a TA connector out, and they have a there's a lot of different ways to mount things on the end of a boom pole. But Ambient makes their own kind of thing that goes in between the tip of the pole and the and your shock mount, that just has a mounting surface for your for your transmitter and a mounting surface for the ump, and they just kind of live up there. And so people have had good success with that.
Yeah, and you know, in a lot of where I tend to look at is, you know, find what fits your application. You know, if you remember, as a throwback to, you know, we had the PHA 48 for the previous gen of transmitters, and it was a very nice just inline adapter, but for the same reason, it didn't have that same level of functionality for boom poles. So that's when we did the PHA 60, we added it to be able to wrap onto a pole and hold with the transmitter in tow.
Yeah, and I think just to go back and thank you, Gotham team, probably Nate or Jared that's putting the links in the chat. I believe the pole mount for that is called the QWB. And there's a whole bunch, or there's a couple different rain, or there's like a rain cover for it too. So just so we know. This is a great question from your wife. If someone were to start their Wizy collection, what would you encourage them to start with?
I know she's gonna be out here thinking I like fed her questions to ask on here. I mean you know, where your 54 or where your Wizy would start is, you know, you brought up a great point, is if you have existing, you know, third-party transmitters, is a great place to start as a receiver. And I tend to look as, you know, what best fits the form factor of your workflow. Because if your workflow is you're a bag, you want to be very lightweight, you know, the MPR52 ENG is a very nice receiver option. And that was just kind of recently revamped. We changed, there's a little confusion on this in our world, or from us, I should say, about changing the filter number, but it is still fully available as a new, I believe it's B12.
Right. Yep. Yeah, get your vitamins.
Yes. So, you know, the 52 becomes a really nice option. Personally, as somebody who spent a lot of years doing video with, like, you know, a Sony A7, I love being able to mount it on top of my little camera and, you know, run and gun. But then it's all a form factor. Some people don't like having the screen on the sides. They want to have the top down screen.
Right. I mean, it really is it's a pretty spectacular camera receiver. I think for me, if I was going to, you know, as a gateway drug, you know, if I wasn't ready to spend the money on the Wisycom wireless, the antennas are pretty extraordinary. You know, and not just the filtered antennas, which are, you know, kind of the flagship, you know, incredibly useful. But also those little, the LBN2s, you know, just the regular shark fins, they're super high quality build. They're not that expensive. They're in the low 200s for price. And they work. They work really well. So that would be my choice.
Yeah. Antennas are always a great, and I mean, I've seen, and I'm sure you know way more on the details of, like, I think it's the Danielle Turi, the Soundfish team, who I've seen, you know, put the mounts on the front of their bag, and they'll put shark fins just off your bag. Because, I mean, as I'm sure you found, and really probably any of the professionals in here would see, the moment you get off the whips and get onto any antenna,
right,
your results are going to be better, because there's a whole long discussion of physics of RF that we don't have to go into today.
Sure. Well, you go from quarter wave to half wave, or probably not full wave, but
into constructive interference and all this jam and all that. But
and they're out of the bag.
Yeah,
you know,
and you get out of away from your stuff. Because the trick, and this is not a knock to any manufacturer of anything, because even like my, you know, keyboard to my MacBook, if you put your receiver and run a scan, put it next to any device, there's always a little bit of just RF noise coming out, and some put out more than others. So the further you can just get away from the noise around you.
I do remember, this is a long time ago, there was a manufacturer that they had a battery in the back of their mixer recorder, and it would just, from that battery port, there was just RF energy just coming out. And so people would wrap like aluminum foil around it. And there are other better things, but they've since corrected that. So more questions. This is great. And so two things. So Alexis and Ray, you know, thank you both for your questions. So Alexis said that they're considering the MCR54 dual receiver, and then Ray asked about the MCR54 dual, and that is because the MCR54 dual is not quite available. Is there any news?
So I'm going to answer this in a way that I might get in a little.
Okay.
Here's what it was explained to me is we paused on the 54 dual because we were using a lot of the same parts as the 54 quad.
Yeah.
But where the 54 quad, we have the 32 meg front end filter. and we had that on the 54 dual, and there was a lot of people who had a concern with that on the 54 dual.
Huh.
And so in the process of trying to kind of rebuild that and restructure it to hopefully be able to eliminate that, but it's in the pipeline, just not, I don't have a definitive.
It's not imminent. Okay, got it. So just to be clear, in terms of Wisycom receivers, I guess we'll go from biggest to smallest. We've got the MRK 980,
Yep.
right? And then we've got the MCR 54 quad.
Yep.
And then we've got the MPR 52 ENG.
Yeah.
Dual. 2-channel. So that's what's available right now.
Yes. And then, of course, there's also the MRK 16. Then you could put 454s in a 1RU
Right.
space.
Yep. Exactly. All right, perfect. So let's see. So Oscar says good morning and appreciates the presentation. Using 5 sets of BFL single channel kits, is there any remote capabilities that can be taken advantage of when combined with the MAT 288?
So with the BFL1, the only remote control capability is via the Wisycom Bluetooth app, which might be a good time to talk about BFL2s.
Great. Okay.
You know, we took a lot and we love the BFL1, and the BFL1 was really the first step out of, if you're familiar with the Wizy product line, we had the MFL, and have the MFL, I should say, which is a 1RU form factor. It's effectively 4 BFLs plus a couple other bits. And we
with options, right?
With
there's
options.
there's a lot of options that we won't go into right
like an entire builder sheet of how to build it and price it and all that jazz. And so it's cool. But then we said, well, the BFL, let's make it a very simple, straight to the point box. And then we said, well, let's step it up from that, which is where we got to BFL2. So,
oh wait, but so real quick, so you've got the transmitter and the receiver. Can you control the filtering on the transmitter from the receiver, or vice versa, or you set the filtering on each one independently?
So generally in all this, the filters on anything RF over fiber, there's only a filter on the T side. Because there's no need to filter on the receive side.
Right.
So in that, you can control the filter of the BFLT via the face panel or the Wisycom app on the BFL1.
Okay, so you have to be, either local or within
a few
50 feet or something like that. Okay, great. So so let's talk about the BFL2, and I'll get my.
Let's go to the. I don't know what do you call
go
it?
to the map.
The Peter cam.
Yeah, the Peter.
You want me to hold it?
POV cam. Yeah, you hold it.
I'll hold it.
So and you can be comfortable. Like talk about it however you want.
So this is to answer exactly that question. Oh, sorry, I'll be closer to the mic. To answer that question, we added the network connection ports, so that you can put this onto your network and have full control of the filters if your T is out in a remote location, and see it, as well as, because a lot of Wisycom engineering, in my opinion, tends to be, well, can we? Then what else can we do? Add another one. So like, even looking at your Glenn sound box here, if you wanted to take and put a Dante network through it, you could have Dante out on your remote site as well. Or if you needed to put a little speaker or just a box for ins and outs there, you bring it all back via fiber. So this lets you control your BFLs over the network.
And so to kind of go with color coding, because we've talked a lot about colors. So this green one, right? That's the ST?
SC. And please
always
forgive
get it
that my cap fell off somewhere along the way, and this breaks rule number 1 of fiber, which
you better
is keep
clean
it clean.
that. Yeah.
I know.
So that's the ST.
SC.
I did it again.
Sam
SC.
Charlie APC.
Sam Charlie. And then, so that is for the RF over fiber, right? And then this blue one up here this is ST.
That's LC.
Oh, I hate it all. God, I'm still learning. It's, so this is LC.
LC.
And it's UPC versus APC. And so this is for your network connection. So essentially so would you do this is 2 strands of fiber on the green and 1 strand of fiber on the blue?
So this particular model is, and we don't have to have terribly did the model numbers, this is what we call, has a multiplexer, which effectively you'll see an A and B antenna, and then it combines to 1 strand for the RF.
I see. Okay.
And then a separate strand for the network.
Okay. So with 2 strands of fiber, you can get your 2 channels and your Ethernet. And the Ethernet really is, so it's not just control for that. It's anything you want.
Passes through,
Yeah. So like what we could use this for, not just Dante, as you mentioned, but also like there are transceiver antennas that work over IP. So like the Clearcom TCVR 19 IP, like you can get 10 channels of comms very easily.
Yeah.
Obviously you need, you need your own little power setup, right? It doesn't power by magic, but as long as you've got some DC or AC power at your site, you can do a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And so even if you're, maybe doing a remote stage and you want to bring back diversity receive, and then you can patch in your transceivers or your, stage racks, whatever it may be, and just bring it all back over your, I know you guys have done some really cool bundles with like Opticon duos and quads.
Yeah. Yeah, and we did. I don't. Hopefully, we'll release this. But we just had the Gotham Expo.
Yeah.
And your teammate Marcos was there and was talking about, gave a great presentation about fiber and talked about this and talked about the the BFL1 and hopefully that'll be up there because we really drilled into still introductory because fiber's deep, but we drilled into fiber quite a bit.
Yeah, and Marcus, we caught up a little bit after that. We worked, and Marcus has been doing Wisycom for longer than I have. Marcus does not love public speaking. So I saw in a note one day, maybe 2 weeks ago, they said, and there's going to be a panel, and I laughed to Katie. I said, oh man, Marcus is gonna have a hard time.
He did great. I could tell he was a little bit nervous, but like he knows his stuff.
That's what I heard from everybody is he did brilliantly, and I knew he would.
Yeah. It was almost when I don't know. Yeah, there was just something about the way that he presented himself that it was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And he just got up and did it. And it was like, heck yeah, way to go.
Do you want to look at this just before we finish off this fiber conversation?
Oh, yeah.
Jared, I threw you a slide there that this might be of help to you about the common connectors you see in LC-UPC versus SC-APC. Because the commons one out there is LC, ST, SC, and then FC.
Right.
This is where the world of fiber kind of kills me. I feel like in the audio world, we've all kind of agreed XLR is the cable.
Right. Yep, for sure.
Let's XLR. It's good. It's nice. We just need the fiber community to kind of make a similar.
There's a different number of pins on it.
Yeah, so it's got a little to do with the shape. Some people like the locking, but additionally it's, how much is that connector coming off and how much is reflecting, because APC bounces any of the reflections to keep your noise floor down.
And that's why you're using APC on the RF side.
RF side, yeah.
Got it. All right, so Whitney would like to know about the MTP61 plug-on. Probably will be called the MTB60. Would be my guess.
That would be my guess as well. I called Italy this morning just to get a confirmation about it. It is not a 2025 project.
I see.
There's some things that I am not allowed to talk about as of yet, that are kind of ahead of it in the pipeline right now. But it's something we're looking at, and but I can say for it is not a 2025 project.
Got it. This is just kind of a random question from a customer that I was working with the other day. Any plans to be able to take, like, let's say a Podium mic and make it just completely wireless?
It would depend on which kind of Podium mic.
I'm thinking specifically about like the DPA 4098, like the little gooseneck, because there is a desire, and certainly you can do it with the MTP61, but there's a desire to like have something weighted that just is completely wireless and looks like a normal Podium mic, but surprise, it's wireless.
There is actually, and this is where I'm gonna end up in a whole thing because I don't know the part number for this. There is what DPA loosely calls their active cable. And we've done a lot of testing with this, that you can use really any of the DPA pencil mics. With this active cable on a 60 or 61 and turn any of them into a wireless mic.
It's like the MMP-GR or MMP-GS, I believe.
Yes, I think that sounds right. I have not learned a lot of the DPA part numbers yet.
There's a lot of them. I think with DPA they do MMP as like the prefix for the preamps.
Yes. Yeah.
And then MMC for the capsules.
That tracks.
And then there's A, B, C, G, I don't know. I don't know what happened to D&E, but
For
RF.
Chris or Denmark are watching, I do know my part numbers. I'm very good.
I'm
very good at my job.
This is why we have the price list. All right, so that's that for 5. So do you know, in terms of like the Formula One place that you were at, like, do you know how many miles of fiber they're running and how many sites and how many zones and all that stuff, or is that not something you're?
Not something I can talk too much on because a lot of that lives under some non-disclosure things. So what I say are things that I observed as Geoff Baynard.
I see.
At Formula One.
I see. Not as Wisycom top secret agent. Who won, by the way?
Oscar Piastri and McLaren.
Nice.
Yeah. 34 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. So
that sounds like a lot.
That's a very significant margin.
Because when you're going however many hundreds of miles an hour, 34 seconds is like a mile.
Yeah, it's a long time, and it's not till you go sit at a race that you see one of the cars rip by, and then you have to wait 30 seconds in almost silence for another car to come by that you realize 30 seconds is a very long time.
Huh. And when you go to a race like that, do you wear ear protection?
I probably should have, because my watch and I ran my I don't know if you've seen the Rational Acoustics Smart app, was definitely over 100.
Oh.
Every time they rip by, but it was very quick that they go by, as you would expect. So should I have? Yes, but I've been waiting to get new impressions done to get molded ones with the selectable filters.
Oh, cool. Other Geoff from Diplex.
Yeah.
And Phonak. They rep a company that does that. You should definitely talk to Geoff, and Geoff should meet.
Yeah, no, I used to interact with Geoff in a previous life, I would say.
We got good Geoffs here. All right, so Brian says, any chance of getting a dual ST port like those used on sports venues to mount antennas up in an announce booth press box with the other end at a wall panel? My assumption, right, and then this is what we always talk about. I think these connectors are generally fixed because there's stuff going on inside here, I would think. But the adapter cables to go from, let's say, ST to LC or SC, yes, are reasonably cheap. They're like $10-15 on Amazon. So having those kind of like inexpensive jumpers, and a bunch of them, because that is the fragile part, would be the way to go to adapt these things.
That's exactly the thing. Is it's a little of the philosophy that you should put a bulkhead or put a cable, something between this and directly to your tack fiber or house, whatever it may be, at a very simple pragmatic level, so that if that fiber gets ripped out, you're not going to destroy your BFL along the way. It's just a $10 little, and I work with some of our like touring partners, and they treat those cables as, non-reusable. So it comes out of a rack, trash. It's $10.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that is the interesting thing about the fiber seminar that we did is, we talked about, having the most robust cable for your very, very long runs.
Yep.
So we talked a lot about optical con and tactical fiber and tactical fiber extreme, and using those for the very long runs. And then, from there, just breaking out and doing the little inexpensive adapters for that kind of stuff as kind of a best practice.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot of easy opportunity to clean out all those places as well.
Right.
Because then, especially if you're using like a bulkhead with the Opticon, you can leave that patch point set, so you don't have to get in there and clean those. Because Opticon is a great connector, but can be a little challenging to get in and clean.
Right.
Because I've gotten, I don't know how much time you've spent with this, I'm sure as much as, even a brand new cable I get out of the bag will sometimes have little smudges on it.
Oh, I've not done that.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
It's the wild thing. You put it up on the scopes, and you'll see just little smudges, like almost like a, what do you call it, like a water, like a water stain.
And that is, that is the best practice for fiber, is just to clean it every time you use it, every time you put it away. You don't have to unhook it and re-clean it. It's not going to get, if it's locked in a rack, nothing bad's going to happen to it. But
and that's the other side of why we'd say put it in the rack, do a bulkhead, because then you clean the bulkhead and don't have to keep messing with this.
Right, exactly.
Because I've, on the side of support in the world of fiber, often when I get a call from someone, the first question I ask is, well, have you cleaned it? And I said, just clean it again, then let me know if you have issues. And almost always I'm good.
Right.
Which I know and I'm sure you talked about this as the expos, it can freak people out to say, well, it has to be clean, it has to be clean. Obviously, there's always a little tolerance built into there for it, but the best practice is, run the one click through it and, the wipes or whatever is the best for your fiber is just give it a little clean.
And, take it slow, right? It's like if you've got, if you're connecting 8 pieces of fiber, connect them one at a time, undo each cap, connect it, then do the next one, and then do the next one, instead of trying to, I'm going to take all the caps off and plug them in one after the other. It's just like, well, if you get it on the ground or you get it on your hand or something like that, like you're mucking with it. Okay, so this is a great name, and I hope I don't butcher it, but Rhinus de Wild. I love that name.
Yeah, it is a great name.
It is.
I don't know how close to right it is, but that sounds right.
It's fantastic. What innovations can we expect in the Wisycom app, especially concerning deploying frequencies and timecode jam?
Of all things, I didn't expect to take questions on this, but okay. I talk semi often with our lead app developer. And he's constantly working on improving and making the app better and faster. And so I don't have a specific on what we can expect, but I know that we always want to know the feedback from you and what you all would want and need. And I will preface all the way up front is we probably won't put in everything that is asked, and probably can't or will try, but we always want to know feedback of, what we can do to help improve your workflows, help improve the app to make it work better for you and work better for our users, both here in the US and across the world. Because, there's a lot of things we talk about that some of the workflows into the United States are very different than the workflows in Europe. So like, for example, we talk about the plug-on. In the conversations I have with Italy, we say, well, we need the plug-on a lot. And they say, well, who's using it? And it's a lot of ENG, whereas like for broadcast television. And broadcast television in the US uses a lot of the plug-on, whereas in Europe they use a lot of just the handheld, like the MTH610, and not a plug-on. So there's a lot of these just very small differences in workflow to the US versus here. But as there's things we'd always love, you can always send an email to support@wisycom.com and feedback on how we can support the app, how we can support you, and what features and things you'd be looking for.
Right. And I know that they're always working hard behind the scenes to get the next thing up. Yeah.
It's every time I've been in the factory, it's the R&D team and the app guys are usually the first ones there, and they're long after we've left.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. What I'm just going to do a quick time check, and thank you all for your wonderful questions. We do have another one that just came in. So yeah, we got about 20 minutes left. So Ray said, I love the Wisycom app. I'd love to have the ability to change the colors on the app to help color coordinate with my transmitters and receivers. That's a cool idea.
That's a great thought. Yeah.
I know when I was doing reality TV, we always had like the blue team and the red team and and the green team, and it was like A camera, B camera, C camera. Same thing with the audio kits. To give you an idea of when I was doing it, it was like when it was people mixing straight to camera. So
it reminds me like our friend Josh Baggett. We talk about how his kit and workflow, and the way they do that is they'll name all the talent who has transmitters, then it's red bag, blue bag, so the producers can listen.
Right.
And I've seen some really cool pictures of people's kits with little color stickers on the top of the 54 with each color of the transmitter, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense to say just grab the red transmitter.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It makes it easy. Or absolutely. I know. I always like to write people's names on it. So I'm just like, where is Ashley? Like, no, not the person, the transmitter. Gosh. So what, all right. So let's get back to these deep biting personal questions. What are you watching for TV these days?
I've been recently into Ozark and finally catching up on that. I've just started season 4. I mostly get time to watch those things when I'm flying, and it's been a lot of that recently.
Okay.
But otherwise, always, we watch The Rookie and Chicago Fire and Chicago PD.
Oh, fun. I think, what is it? My kid is really into The Rookie, and so is my mom. And actually, I have a friend who directed an episode of that, which is very cool. Great. So, all right. So let's back to work stuff. In terms of, when you often get consulted for technical support, right? For, people that need help, either, getting themselves up and going, or, for advice for giant installs. So in terms of like giant installs, what has been like the most interesting thing? And if you can't name names, that's fine. But like, what has been the most interesting or challenging thing that you've had to deal with?
A lot of those in the larger installs, it's really kind of the challenge of kind of explaining this paradigm shift of what you can do with, say, an MAT. So an MAT, for anyone not familiar, is a diversity matrix antenna combiner. And what we can do is expand our coverage, because it's this whole idea of explaining to people that you no longer have to put another set of receivers in the next room and another set of receivers in the next room and more in each room as you go. You can treat your mics as a shared resource to your facility. And it's a kind of explaining that and explaining how to actually implement that. And then explaining why fiber will help them do that.
I see. So instead of having like a server room in each of your conference rooms or wherever you need mics, you can have one centralized thing and just fly the mics out and assign it to that room.
Yeah, because we run into situations where, take any broadcast facility and you say, well, I've got Studio A and I need 8 mics in there. So you get them 8 mics and you say, okay, cool. Well, then they, shift and now it's, well, also Studio B and we want mics in there. So they just get another 8 mics. And then one day the producer says, well, I want to be able to walk out to the, the bullpen. And you say, okay, well, we can get another 8 mics and put them out there, but they might not have the budget. So we'll just put some receivers, and now as they walk, audio control's got to flip from one to the other, or they're rebelt packing, or whatever it may be. And now you've got a pack of mics that, well, you can't use all the time, so you're not getting a great return on your investment.
Right.
And it's explaining that this is a box, this is a whole system that you can do something you didn't know you could do, and a solution you just didn't realize was available.
And with the MAT, there are different zones, right? I mean, they're diversity zones, and you can go up with the 288. You can have 8 diversity zones. How often are you, or would you recommend turning zones off that are not in use? Like, is that something that you just leave up, or do you recommend people turn it off when they're not using it, or what's your best practice?
It tends to really depend on your workflow. I know I had a conversation one day with a touring guy, and he asked me to see if we could put a crossfader into the MAT, because he says, well, my artist is going from the A stage in this basket over to the B stage, and I want to be able to crossfade the antennas. And I said, well, that's one way to do it. But I said the kind of philosophy I was taught as I got into this from one of the engineers that we worked with, very practical, is design it to be able to just leave all the zones on. And of course, if you're here in New York and you've got a position on the roof, it's snowing half the year or whatever. I don't know. It's cold here. Or Chicago, it just snows all the time. I probably don't need it. I'm going to just turn it off.
Right.
So it's a little bit of workflow. Same if I'm on a reality show or I'm on a TV set and I've got antennas out in my trailer area. If we're shooting and I don't need them, I'm going to kill the noise. Yeah. It's a little bit of a non-answer, more of like what makes most sense to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, hot news. Apparently you love the Kardashians, but won't admit it.
I don't even know what that means.
A likely story. So questions about the next plug-on transmitter. Will it support a stereo mic, aka a 5-pin XLR?
At the moment, I haven't heard anything specific onto that. I think it's still very early in the kind of planning and design phase of that transmitter. You know, Wisycom learned a lot as you know, we built the 61 and the platform that the 61 is built on. It's all an FPGA platform and very, very versatile in what it can do and will do. So it's early to say what the next gen plug-on will or won't do. Massimo did say to me, make promises, just don't tell them I said them.
Fantastic.
So.
Okay, so this is a solid suggestion though from Notes Productions.
Yeah.
Having a stereo, because I do know this to me seems to be a European thing, but I have heard that booming with an MS mic is very satisfying. There's also, of course, now microphones that have AES. Yeah,
some digital input mics, and I know, and with the now inclusion of Austrian audio into the world of DPA and Wisycom, there's some mics that have multiple outputs for very similar multiple capsules inside of or multiple elements inside of a capsule.
Right. Yeah, I need to dig into that line. I have not had very much time.
There's some very, very cool options and things to look at for how you can capture. I mean, it's a lot you can do with capturing music, but even capturing anything and how you can recreate it in your post-production.
Yeah. Have you, I know that you're working with DPA and Wisycom and the partnership in the U.S. Have you noticed, any feedback on any of the new lavs, the Core Plus, the Micro Lock, the 2061? Any thoughts or feelings on those?
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of positive reactions to Core Plus. I mean, just to be able to get even more out of when they explained that to me, because my background is much more wireless than anything else, and a lot of audio as well. But just explaining how much more you can get before you hit a distortion point is incredible. And there's a lot of graphics, and the mic guys can go deep into that. But to get so much more out of the same package without ever worrying that I'm going to clip my capsule. But really, of all those, and I said this to them when we were in Copenhagen last year for our sales meeting, is I love Microlock and everything about Microlock. We even make the MTP61 has a version with Microlock available, so you can go straight on.
Right. Yes.
Because it really, get rid of an adapter, get it even smaller, and solves what I, always felt was a challenge and again, Geoff personally, was a challenge in micro dot that they've solved very, very well. So now I have an incredible capsule, a strong cable, and a connector that's not going to fall out.
Right. And I know, it used to would come with a little wrench. You'd have to really, you didn't have to, but to really make sure it was on there. I think I had one instance ever where it just wasn't tightened enough and it came loose and it was hair on fire. Oh, no, it was very, very quick. Yeah, so the idea of the lock-in connector is really pretty fantastic. And there is a push-pull 3-pin LEMO that I am surprised that is not more popular.
Yeah, I mean, the 3-pin LEMO on its own is always a great connector option as well. I mean, Wisycom's been 3-pin LEMO forever. And then because when you put it on something like the 61, you get that water resistance.
Right. Right, and so that is the surprise that from the video you or the factory did at the Customer Choice Awards was to see a 61 in a fish tank.
Submerged, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an exciting one. We said to them, hey, here's exactly what we'd like you guys to film. Could you help us with this? And it came back and said that, so... the 61, we redeveloped a lot of that connector inside of the device to make it so that it could have gasketing. So that if your transmitter is on somebody who falls in a pool, whatever, it's going to be
okay.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Still, don't jump in the pool, Tal.
Don't jump in the pool.
Yeah. All right, so we're back to the personal questions. We have maybe 5 more minutes with Geoff, but... so what did you have for breakfast?
This morning I did not actually have breakfast because I got up a little late because of, my congestion all week. I've not slept well.
Oh no, it's the allergies, yeah.
The allergies. Then after the cars racing by at 100 decibels, and every time Katie would ask something, I'm explaining, but you're having to shout over the very loud cars.
I get that. Yeah.
Lost my voice a little. Then allergies. It came back to a very solid layer of pollen on my car. And then I don't know if the tree in my front yard, the whole branch, fell off. Yeah, the wind knocked a branch off my tree. I know.
Is the house okay?
It missed my house barely. It was a very substantial branch. And now we found out this morning or yesterday that our neighbor has an arborist. Apparently, we have an HOA. It's a whole thing. Okay. We live in a townhouse, and they came by and they said, yeah, it's got ants or carpenter ants in it, so we're going to have to take it out. And the guy was almost a little concerned. He's like, yeah, and just so you know, the new trees only come about 6-7 feet tall, so you're going to have a little while before you have shade, which is a little problematic because in my townhouse, the top right window is my home office. And I enjoyed my shade, and my cats enjoyed the tree with the birds.
I see. And the carpenter ants also enjoyed the tree.
Apparently they did too. Yeah, no, it was cool. I was on the phone as I was about to walk in the house, and a giant tree fell in my doorway.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're okay.
Me too, and my house, and my wife.
And your wife, yeah, and the cats.
And the cats. They were horrified. She comes outside, and she goes, what happened? The cats all just took off. But, it was also a storm. My little cat, we have to build a panic shelter when it storms. So like a Costco box and then put a blanket over it so she's not scared.
Oh,
yeah. That's my personal life.
Okay, I love it. And I feel like, so let's start to wrap things up here. Any closing thoughts that you want to share? And we just appreciate you being here so much. It's always a pleasure to see you, and it's always great to have the opportunity for people to ask you direct questions. But yeah, anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to get to, or?
No. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate coming up here. I always enjoy coming in, hanging out, and catching up and talking about what we can do and how we can support and the cool things we're working on.
Very cool. All right. Well, look, I appreciate it. Thank you again for being here. Thank you all for watching and for all your wonderful questions and interactions. For this video and more, you can go to gothamsound.tv. As always, you can follow us on all the different social media platforms, the Facebook, the Instagram, the X, the Blue Sky. I forget. But
and you're on LinkedIn too.
We're on LinkedIn.
I saw a thing from Jared.
Yes.
This is streaming on LinkedIn.
There you go. Yeah, streaming on LinkedIn. If you have any questions that are when we're not live, please feel free to email us at info@gothamsound.com. If you want to get in touch with Geoff, we'll get you in touch with Geoff. And yeah.
Can they also send suggestions for your next hair color to?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. It's going to take a couple months, but if you'd like to see a different hair color.
I think Gotham should start a poll on your next hair color.
Okay. It'd be fun, only if you frost the tips. Anyway, and if you're thinking of purchasing or renting any professional sound and communications equipment, please consider Gotham Sound. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, thanks.